Hey everyone! I'm so glad to have you again. Today's video is not inspirational video, is not motivational video. It is about how one mistake changed my life forever. Have you ever had a moment where you can physically feel your life splitting into two distinct paths? Before and an after? I have. And for me, that moment wasn't a dramatic car crash or a winning lottery ticket. It was a Tuesday. It was a single sentence in an email. It was a choice I made in less than 10 seconds. A choice that I thought was insignificant. A tiny compromise. I was wrong. That tiny compromise, that one mistake, didn't just derail my career. It dismantled the person I thought I was. It forced me to hit rock bottom so hard that I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to stand up again. But it also, in the strangest way, saved me. This is the story of how one mistake changed my life forever. Part 1: The before, setting the stage. To understand the mistake, you have to understand who I was back then. I was, insert your age at the time, e.g. 24. I had just landed what I thought was my dream job and insert your industry, e.g. marketing, tech, finance. I was working at, insert a generic description of the company, e.g. a fast-paced startup, a prestigious firm. And I was hungry. I wasn't just hungry, I was starving. I wanted to prove myself so badly. I was the first in my family to insert a personal milestone, get a college degree, move to a big city. And I carried that pressure on my shoulders every single day. Success wasn't just an option, it felt like an obligation. My life was a checklist. Get the degree? Check. Get the job? Check. The next item on the list was get the promotion. And I was laser focused on it. My boss, let's call him, insert a generic name, Mark, was a big deal at the company. He was brilliant but demanding. Getting his approval was like winning a gold medal, and for months I worked my tail off trying to get it. I was the first one in, the last one out. I took on every project nobody else wanted. I truly believed that hard work was the only thing that mattered. My personal mantra was, integrity is everything. Funny how that works, isn't it? Part 2: The mistake, the slippery slope. So the moment. It all came down to this one massive project. It was my chance to shine. It was for, insert a vague but important sounding client or goal, e.g. a huge client pitch, our quarterly earnings report. My part of the project involved describe your task, e.g. analyzing a huge dataset, compiling user feedback, finalizing financial projections. The deadline was Friday at 5 p.m. No exceptions. Mark had made that crystal clear. Promotion was literally on the line. And of course everything that could go wrong did go wrong. A server crashed. A key piece of data was late. I was pulling all-nighters, fueled by caffeine and pure panic. It's Thursday night. I'm exhausted. And I find a discrepancy. A small one, but it's there. One of the numbers in my report just doesn't add up. It was a tiny piece of data from one source that contradicted everything else. To fix it properly, I'd have to rerun the entire analysis, which would take at least 12 hours. I would miss the deadline. And I could feel my future slipping through my fingers. All that work, all those late nights. For nothing. And then the thought crept in. It started as a whisper. It's so small. No one will even notice. The overall conclusion is still correct. This one number doesn't change the big picture. Mark just wants it done. He cares about the deadline, not this tiny detail. I was negotiating with myself. I was rationalizing. I told myself I wasn't lying. I was just making an executive decision. Tidying up the data. So I did it. I changed the number. I insert the specific small lie. Nudged the growth projection from 14.8% to 15.1% to match the summary. I smoothed out the anomaly in the user survey data. Took me 5 seconds. I hit send. And for a brief moment, I felt a wave of pure relief. Part 3: The fallout. The relief lasted for about 12 hours. The next day, Friday afternoon, I got the email. Conference room 3. Now. I've never felt a cold dread like that in my life. I walked into that room and Mark was there. And so was the head of the department. And they had my report printed out on the table. Mark didn't yell. It was worse. He was quiet, disappointed. He just pointed to the number, the one I changed. And he said, "Where did you get this from?" And my whole world just collapsed. I couldn't lie anymore. The house of cards I had built came tumbling down. I confessed. I tried to explain the pressure, the deadline. But it all just sounded like pathetic excuses. The words I will never forget were, "It's not about the number. It's about integrity. If we can't trust this number, we can't trust any of it. We can't trust you." I was fired on the spot. I had to pack my things in a cardboard box, do the walk of shame past all my colleagues. The ones I had laughed with, the ones I had worked so hard to impress. The silence was deafening. Part 4, the change and the lesson. And that was my rock bottom. Getting fired was just the start. The shame was suffocating. I couldn't tell my parents. I ghosted my friends because I didn't know how to explain that the successful son they were so proud of was a fraud and a failure. For months I was lost. My identity was so wrapped up in my job and my ambition that without it I was nobody. That mistake didn't just cost me a job, it cost me my self-respect. But then something strange happens when you lose everything you thought you wanted. You're forced to figure out what you actually need. My turning point came from, insert your turning point, a brutally honest conversation with my best friend, finally telling my parents and them reacting with love instead of anger, taking a menial job just to pay rent that taught me humility. And I started to rebuild. Slowly. But this time I wasn't building on a foundation of ambition. I was building on a foundation of honesty. The mistake taught me the most brutal but valuable lesson of my life. Your character is the only thing you truly own. Your job, your title, your money, that can all disappear in an instant. But who you are when no one is watching, that's forever. That single mistake forced me to redefine success. It's not about the promotion or the paycheck. It's about being able to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day. It's about building a life, not just a resume. Part 5, the after and conclusion. So where am I now? My life looks nothing like I planned. I briefly and vaguely describe your current situation. Do you work for myself now? I'm in a completely different field that I'm passionate about. I took a step back to focus on my relationships. And you know what? I'm happier. I'm more me than I ever was in that glass tower. I would never wish that experience on anyone. But I wouldn't trade the lesson it taught me for anything. That mistake changed my life forever, by forcing me to build a better one from the ashes. So I want to ask you, what defines your success? And what's one line you'll never cross, no matter the pressure? Think about it, because your integrity is worth more than any deadline. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories about life, lessons, and finding your way, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.